So, writers or project managers, I will die on this hill. And there are tools that project managers use that I feel can benefit writers. One of those is the work breakdown structure. Now, what this is that it's really the building block of starting a project. And how that works is that when you're given a project, you're given like a big goal. You're like, go do this big thing. And a lot of times you're like, where do I start? And the same thing happens when you decide to write a novel or a book or a novella. But still, it's the same concept. You get this big idea and you're like, where do I start? And so, what a work breakdown structure does is that it allows you to take that big piece of work and break it down into smaller pieces. And then you can break that down even further until you get down to manageable task sizes. And then what you do is then you take those tasks and then you later organize them into a project plan over a period of time. So, what I would like to do today is walk through my process of doing a work breakdown structure for a new project that I'm starting, which is a novella, uh, untitled, just really just have a concept of it and have a really good idea of what it is going to be. But I do have a log line. And so I will put the log line up on the screen right here. Phoebe LaRue lost a lot of things in her life. 2 children, a husband, and thousands of lovers over 3 millennia because of a petty curse. After ages of isolation, she finally found a reason to keep living and will march into hell itself to face down the goddess responsible or finally die trying. With that, I'm going to start breaking it down. Now, I'm going to be breaking down the entire life cycle of the project from the pre-production phase, which includes research and budget planning and scheduling, to drafting, editing, and reviewing, also looking at marketing and public relations planning, the publishing aspect of it. So for this one, I've already decided on what channel I'm going to be posting this to my Substack. So it's going to be geared towards that. But if you look on my Substack channel, I do have an article posted about work breakdown structures that does have some screenshots of a WBS for a like kind of a self-publishing model with a more detail about the publishing aspect of those steps, and then also some stuff about like what you can do for launch day. So I'm gonna start breaking that down right now, and I'm gonna have you guys watch me do it and kind of just like talking you through it as we go. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to open up the software that we're going to be using. Now you can use any software. You can do this in Excel. You can do this in PowerPoint. The software I'm using right now is Figma. This is the free version, so you're limited in regards to how many things you can open, but it's working for me right now. And so what I like about it is that it's really easy to pull stickies to build out your WBS. And so we're doing that right now. And the first one we're going to do is a top level sticky, which is basically the title of our project, which we are going to put it as the untitled novella. And I like to make the text a little bit larger on these because it is at the top level. And I do like to color code my stickies. So the top level is one color, and then the second level down, which is what we're doing now, is a different color and a smaller font size. And so the first one that we're going to do is we're going to do the pre-production, and then we're going to keep on creating some. So we're going to do pre-production, drafting, and then this next one that we're going to do is our editing, and then, yeah, review. All right, and this one, and so our next one is going to be marketing and public relations and publishing, and budgeting is a big thing, especially if you're self-publishing. I guess I'll just call it finance because it's budgeting and then there's other stuff. Okay, I just put both in there. Finance and budget. That works. All right. So now we're ready to start doing our third level. And this is where we start breaking down the the big pieces of work into smaller pieces. So what's everything that's involved in pre-production? So we've got research is one thing that I need to do because this particular story is going to be set in kind of a supernatural-esque world that I know I need to do some research on because it's going to have elements of Greek mythology, Christian mythology, as well as some Norse mythology. Uh, so a whole hodgepodge of stuff in there. So I definitely want to be able to have a lot of research time. So I'm picking 160 hours there, and then definitely want to take some time to do character design because I do like to take time to really have fleshed out characters, and then doing my outline and structure workbooks, very big pieces of my pre-planning process. Of course, do I follow my structure workbook after I'm done with it? Uh, Usually for the first act, and then after I'm past the first act, I usually keep the major milestones and just everything else goes out the window. But it still helps me wrap my head around the story in order to get to where I need to be. All right, so we have research, character design, outline workbook, and structure workbook. What else do I need to have in pre-production? Okay. Ah, yes, world building, because I'm I want to set it in Savannah, Georgia, or at least have the story start in Savannah, Georgia. And so I do need to do some research. I mean, I lived there for about 5 years, but a lot has changed in 20 years. And then I didn't. I just want to get a better handle of the history and the folklore. So I definitely want to take some time there. And then, of course, down at the bottom, I have setting up my word tracker, which is a template I set up in Excel that's really easy to get started. All right, so for drafting, of course, I have my first draft. I do know that this takes me roughly 6 months. So basically like 120 days. All right, so when it comes to editing, I give my pieces a rest period. I don't count this in hours, I count this in days. And so my rule of thumb is I typically give my novellas a 60-day rest period where I just set it aside and I don't touch it. After that rest period is when I pick it up for the first round of edits. And that usually takes me, historically, for my last three novellas, it's taken me about 60 hours to get through that first round of edits. After the first round, I do have a review process, and then it comes back down for the second round of edits, and that usually takes about 30 hours. Now, for my review process, I have a critique partner that I work with, and so after I do my pass, then I let them look at it, and I usually give them about 30 days to look over it and then give their feedback. And then once I get that feedback, I do my second round of edits, and then of course after my second round of edits, I give it to my beta readers, uh, and I give my beta readers 30 days. Okay. I decided that I wanted to change publishing to production because I'm not really publishing. Uh, just getting technical here. All right, moving over to marketing. So, of course, I have market research. I'm putting that at 40 hours just because I don't know exactly how deep I have to go yet, but it's a good estimate. And then, of course, after I'm done with that research plan, I'm going to do a marketing plan. I have to create a marketing plan of how I'm going to market this project. And so I'm going to spend 20 hours in building that plan. And then, of course, determining pricing. Uh, with this one, I have to make decisions. Do I want to put it behind a paywall? Do I not want to put it behind a paywall? And then, of course, do it if I want to publish it later. Do I charge? So just a lot of research with that. And then, of course, if I do have purchasing ads as part of my marketing plan, I have a task to do that. And then, of course, building any and all promotional materials, whether that is character art or anything I create for any paid subscribers to my Substack as as those freebies or incentives. Uh, so I'm estimating that I have to do a lot of that by hand personally. So I'm going to estimate 80 hours for that. And then I have to document my comp titles because that's a good practice to be in, just period. So yeah, I'm gonna spend about 20 hours to document my what comp titles would be good for this project. All right, so moving over to public relations, defining talking points. This is important because when people inquire about your book, you need to know exactly what you want to focus on and what message you want to get across, so that you don't ramble and you're consistent and you're on brand. And so that's important. So nailing down your talking points for media inquiries is critical. This will also help you develop that elevator pitch when you talk to other professionals. Then there is writing that one pager about you and your book, and this is for things such as media inquiries or just general thing to put on your website. Also feeds into when you write your press releases, which is also an important thing to send to publications if you want to get some eyes and some press on your work. And then, of course, you want to research media outlets that you can send press releases to get that coverage. And then and then, of course, build that outreach plan to reach out to those outlets. And then, of course, shooting for the stars here, but scheduling media appearances if those come available. It never hurts to ask, y'all. It never hurts to ask. The worst they can say is no, and you're no worse off than you were before. Okay. And then with regards to public relations, this also includes attending things like book events, signing events, as well as conventions. You can go to a convention, have a table, or just go as like a networking event. So definitely you want to research which ones would be advantageous to you. And so you research that, and then of course you make some decisions of which ones you are going to go to. This also is where making that budget and planning out in advance what your finances look like comes in handy. All right, now production. This is the fun and stressful part. So since I'm doing this on my Substack, I need to build a Substack page specifically for this novella. So that is something that is going to take me some time. Uh, shouldn't take me too much time. I'm guessing maybe like 5 to 10 hours, maybe. I don't know. Let me think about that. Okay. So procurement planning. This includes things like cover art. Do I want to hire a cover artist? Do I want to hire someone to do any of this work for me? Having a procurement plan is important. Also decided 5 hours for that for building that Substack page. But yeah, procurement is something that not a lot of people think about, but it's good to have that plan in advance, both for your budgeting, but also just so that you can kind of stop stressing about something that you know that you're going to hire someone for, and also build that into your plan to search for the artist or the contractors that you're going to have do these things for you. And so planning that probably take about 10 hours. Now, granted, these are all estimates. These may end up being shorter or longer. Uh, one way that I estimate is I estimate how the fastest and the longest it'll take, and then pick some time in the middle. Now, cover design, assuming I don't outsource it, historically it has taken me about 20 hours to design my covers. So that is the estimate I'm going to stick with here. Okay, so image sourcing and creation. Since this is a Substack page, it is something that I'm going to have images for. Thankfully, I'm very, very well adept at Photoshop, and so I will be doing that on my own. So it'll take about 30 hours to do images for all the chapters. And then, of course, there's the chapter posts layout in Substack, which is not terribly involved because it's really just dropping in the text and formatting and then dropping in the images where it's appropriate. So not terribly thinking it's going to take a long time, but I would say it's probably like an hour per chapter. And I don't know how many chapters this is yet because I haven't started writing it. But my last few novellas came in around 20 to 25 chapters. So let's just say estimate 25 chapters, I think. So yeah, 1 hour per chapter. Uh, I'll probably do 3 or 4 chapters in one sitting. All right, moving on to finance and budget. Not a lot of tasks in this one, but it's still important. So of course, building a project budget, critical, because money makes the world go round. One important thing when you're building a budget, do not forget to pay yourself. Now, granted, are you actually giving yourself money? No, you're not. But it's good to keep a track of how much you are spending on yourself so that when you do start have money coming in, you can pay yourself back. Now, oh, I did forget one thing. Launch. That is a second level task. Launch day planning. What are you going to do for it? So let's see. For launch day for this one, let's see. Of course, we got to research the options of what we can do for a launch event when it's a Substack novella series. So spend about 10 hours on that research. For the marketing plan, I'm going to have like a pre-launch ramp up. So I'm going to start that pre-launch marketing plan. Now this one is going to be more of a milestone because that's built into the plan, but it's a milestone within the launch body of work. So that is there for tracking purposes when I build out the project plan. Now, are we going to have a launch event? I don't know. That is a decision that needs to be made. So that is a milestone decision point that I need to put on the project plan so I don't forget about it. And then if I do decide to do a launch event, I have to plan it. So that is another task. Probably spend about 10, 15 hours on, oh, no, 40 hours. 40 hours makes more sense. So you see, we've got it down to like a third level down in terms of our task sizes. So for a lot of these, this is good, and we don't need to break it down any further. And really, the level of granularity that you go really depends on you and what the project needs. I've done projects at my day job where I've gone to super granular level. Like if if something needs to be created, like a document or a training, I go down to like drafting, review, editing, and then publishing. But things like market research, I could go deeper on that, uh, but I choose not to because one, I don't even know what I'm going to do for the research yet. But there are other things that we can go deeper on. I think one of the things that I'm going to go deeper on is with regards to my pre-production planning. And so let's go ahead and dive in on that. And I'm going to start off first with what research I want to do for this project. All right, so coming back in, we are going to start breaking down our pre-production work into smaller chunks because it makes sense. There's a lot of stuff happening in here, especially with research being 160 hours worth of research. Want to get more fine-tuned here. So picking another color for our post-it. Also going to try to see if I can make this a little bit smaller. It's not getting smaller. But anyway, so definitely going to do Greek mythology. There we go. Now it's smaller. Now, should I just have one mythology, or should I like? No, I think I should put all the mythologies in one task, and just like have that one have that be just be one body of work. Otherwise it's gonna get real unwieldy here. So I've got Greek, Norse, and then what else makes sense here? Well, I guess yeah, the Canaan, because the Canaanites were pre-Israel, and they were polytheistic. So yes, I will have that. Okay, no, I should probably just change it to religion. Religious, yes, religious deities. That makes more sense because I will be having religious deities as characters in this novella. As the logline says, a curse plays very heavily into the plot, so I need to research them because I need to make sure I understand them. So curses that as they appear in ancient myths, also some biblical curses. That might give some good flavor. No beasts. I like beasts. No beings. Yeah, mythological beings. We have fairies. And the beasts. Yes. Okay, fairies, beasts. That makes sense. Moving on. Okay, the regions. Yes, so I know I need to research Savannah. That's a given. I love that city. I've lived so many places being an army brat, and Savannah's the only place I call home. All right, and the low country of Georgia. Like, that is a whole region. Uh, a lot of folklore there. So definitely have to research that entire region. What else? So we are going to be going to some mythological places in here. So of course you have to research ancient Greece because the main character is ancient. She's been around for like 3 millennia. Ireland. I mean, I don't know if she's going to go there, but I think it'd be cool. So research that and see if it sparks anything. Okay. As you can see, I'm crazy about my formatting. It makes me sane. All right. Professional research. This main character has been alive for 3,000 years. She picked up some jobs. So, what kind of jobs could she have picked up? I think maybe blacksmithing would be a cool one. So, let's research blacksmithing. And then, what else? What else? The prehistoric times probably is more like labor like work. So we have blacksmithing, masonry. Yeah, masonry is a good one. And then what else? Leatherworking, maybe. Yes. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Apothecary. And then also giving her more of like a holistic vibe. I think I'm gonna research now. So for the curses, yeah, 5 hours. I think 5 hours is good there. I know that the regions. I need to spend a lot of time in the regions. So maybe 20 hours. No, yeah, 40 hours makes sense because it's a lot of work. The deities are going to take some time. So maybe 25, 30 hours. Maybe 50 hours. That's a lot of work. No, 25 sounds good. Yeah, 25 hours. So with a lot of this, it's really just guessing. Uh, Especially if you haven't done like research on these topics before, you're really not going to know exactly how long it's going to take. And so some of this, as I said earlier, might take longer, might take shorter, but you want to set yourself up for success. So with this, you're just kind of tossing in what you think it'll fit, and then you always adjust as you go along. And that's the beauty with like planning out a project like this is like you give yourself a little bit of wiggle room so that you can make adjustments as you go. But moving on to character design. So with this one, I tend to have a pretty structured way of how I approach character design. Um, with my main characters, I typically do like a character background, character study, and then I will do a full blown character arc, analysis. I have a workbook that I use. Actually, I use workbooks for my outline structure and my character arcs by Cam Weiland. I highly recommend her stuff. Very informative. I learned a lot about my story structure and fleshing out my characters reading her books. So I highly recommend them. For all my characters, I do a pretty detailed background so I can get better understand them. I fully believe that like with your main character and side characters, like you need to give them at, at least as equal of amount of attention as possible with regards to just like knowing them. Now, granted, will it all show up on the page? Probably not, but it's important. Okay, so of course, yes, the character background. That is one of the first things I do with the main character. And a lot of times I do this like when I'm washing dishes and stuff or driving. I just think of stuff and I jot it down in my IA Writer app on my phone and then transcribe it into my notebook, into my Word document later. So yeah, the background and bio. And then we've got the character arc. Okay, so we got our characters mapped, character work mapped out for the love interest, the second, the best friend character, as well as the main antagonist and the secondary antagonist. Got them mapped out. So we're going to move down, and we're going to get down to our world building, because doing the outline workbook and the structure workbook that doesn't have any subtasks. It's pretty much just one big task. So there's no need to break those down any further. But definitely world building is really important. So like I like to structure world building as tasks as more like questions. So basically things to be answered. Specifically like with this one, I'm like creating a world where there is a supernatural element and there are supernatural deities and beings and beasts. So how's that play? So with regards to the deities, like I'm having deities from different religions and different mythologies uh, interacting in the same world. So like how's that work, right? And so we got working on the deities, and then definitely Savannah, like what's changing in Savannah, what's different, what's the same. I am going to have my character go to Christian hell for a scene or two, so I definitely need to do some world building on that. There's been so many interpretations of the Christian hell that I kind of want to take a different take on it, so I just need to figure out how I want that to be. And then she's going to be going to Olympus that has been abandoned because the Greek gods no longer live there. They live in the regular world. So I think that's going to be fun and interesting. And then with regards to the supernatural world, I think I'm going to be doing a lot of work there of like, what does that look like? Okay, so I have these now. This is definitely the areas I'm going to do for world building. Now I start writing questions that I feel need to be answered. How do they interact? Like, what is their culture? And like, how do the cultures of each pantheon mesh with the others? Like, and how does that work in the modern day? Like, how they evolve? So like, that's definitely something that I need to dive into and work with. And then like, how do these pantheons coexist? Like, how does the Christian pantheon or the Canaanite pantheon interact with the Norse pantheon? Like how's that work? Like, do they get along? Are they buddies? Or are they like revile each other? And then like, how does religion and worship work with deities? Like do they get power from worship still? Like, do they answer prayers? Like how does it work? So I need to answer that question because that's definitely something that's going to come up from a reader. And then the supernatural powers, like what powers do the deities have? What rules? What limitations? When dealing with deities or any supernatural beings that have powers, you need to have rules and limits. That way you know when it's okay to break them. Because without rules and limitations, then it's harder for people to suspend belief because there's no ground for them to stand on. There's no way for them to get their bearings. All right, so Savannah, Georgia, Christian Hell, Abandoned Olympus. Don't really have any questions I want to capture there just yet. Basically, just general. I just have to build it. But definitely the supernatural world. I have questions I know I need to answer in order to build that world. So, one of the first ones is what is real and what is not real. Like, what, like, are unicorns real? Or are they not real? So I have to where is the line drawn? And then what scares them? Like, if we have the boogeyman in this world, what scares the boogeyman? Like, what do they fear? Because even monsters have something to fear. Okay, what else do we have to think of for the supernatural world? Okay, yeah. So yeah, cultures and customs. Like what is what does their day to day look like? Like how do they interact with themselves, with society, with other beings? Like how's that work out? And then currency and trade. Do they use like the local currency, or do they have their own currency and their own markets that they use strictly for the supernatural world? You see this in stories that have like mixed fantasy beings with with real world people, where like there's a currency that the fantasy beings use. And then of course there's magic. Like, does magic exist in this world? I mean, we know it's probably going to exist for the deities, but does it exist for the supernatural world? And then if it does exist, how does it exist, and what are the rules? What are the rules and limitations? And then what laws govern this world? Like, do they have laws? If they do have laws, who enforces them? Is there like a governing body, like a council, or do the do the different supernatural races govern themselves and they just coexist peacefully or not so peacefully? Like, how does that work? How does that work out? It's something that I definitely need to know. Granted, am I going to get into the politics of this world? Probably not, but it's good to know, because then you can reference it in passing, and it gives your world more depth. Okay, plugging in times for the other work. So for characters, estimating about 80 hours worth. Okay, so 80 hours split amongst, was that main character, love interest, uh, best friend character, or side character, best friend character, same thing. Uh, and then main antagonist and side antagonist. So that's 5. So 5 divided by 80. Okay, so 30 hours for the main character. Love interest is not going to be in the story like terribly much, so 10 hours for them. The side character should get a good solid 20 hours. And then main antagonist, 10 hours, and probably 10 hours for the second antagonist in terms of character building. That makes sense. I think the main antagonist is going to be one of the deities, so that is probably going to pay off on that research on the deities. So that should help. Okay, outlining the workbook. This typically I spend about 2 hours a week doing this. So I think, and I typically finish it in like 2.5 weeks. So like, yeah, 5 hours. And then the structuring workbook takes a lot longer. And so 24 hours for that one. And then world building is definitely going to take a long time. So figure 80 hours for that one. And see, deities, Savannah, Christian Hell, Abandoned Olympus, Supernatural World. That's 5. Okay, 580 again. Okay, so the big hitters are going to be the Supernatural World and the deities. So Supernatural World gets 40 hours of work. The deities, probably 30 or 40 hours. Okay, what do you think, JW? What do you think here? Uh, that's 40. No. Okay, yeah. Drop that down to 30 so it doesn't hog up all the time. And deities. Yeah, 20 works. 20 is a good fit. And then Savannah, it's like I know a lot of Savannah for world building, so 5 hours just making minor changes. Christian Hell, a little more involved, 10 hours here. And then the Abandoned Olympus, yeah, 5 hours. And then that leaves me a cushion of free time in case I think of anything else I need to research or do for world building, or if any of them spill over. And I'm not going to break down the hours for the questions. I'm just going to leave that open. And then half an hour to set up the word tracker. All right. Okay, now I want to add up the hours that it's going to take for everything. So I'm going to add them up by second level columns. So adding up the first column for pre-production, and that one adds up to 350, well, 350 and a half hours. That is a crazy amount of work. Uh, Now, granted, I do have lead time for all of this work before I start actually drafting. I typically have pre-production spanning over a course of 3 months, so I do have enough time to do the pre-production work. Uh, Now, if some of it doesn't get finished, that's okay. I can still write the first draft with what I know and then continue doing research and then be able to incorporate what I didn't do in the next draft. But for drafting, that's pretty set at 90 hours based upon how I've written other novellas in the past. Editing is pretty locked in at 90 hours too, historically. Okay. And then marketing adds up to 170 hours. Okay, and public relations, adding it up. There's a lot of tasks in public relations, but they're not all big ticket items in terms of large hour numbers. Okay, so public relations only adds up to 90 hours. So even though it has more tasks, the weight of those tasks is not as heavy as marketing is. And the same thing's happening with production. Production is not going to be a very heavy lift. I'm probably guessing maybe like 90 hours as well. Let's see, I have to calculate out the chapter posts. 25 chapters, so it's 25 hours. So maybe not, yeah, maybe 90 hours. Mental math is fun. All right, and then finance and budget's easy. That's just 2 hours. And then launch, let's see, as what we have logged down, it's just 70 hours. All right, so that was a lot of work. It usually takes me on average about 30 to 45 minutes to get through one of these. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It depends on really how it really depends on how big the project is. But now that I have this, I can actually take these tasks and build out an idea of how long it'll take me to do all this stuff. And I use a tool that's called a network diagram. And I'm going to get into that next week. And basically, we're going to put all this in order. And I'm going to figure out exactly how long it'll take. I can calculate out to when I think I'll be able to publish, or if I already have a publishing date in mind, I'll be able to figure out, is my timeline realistic based upon where I am right now. So like if I wanted to publish this on Substack in a year, do I have enough time to do all this work and meet that publishing deadline? And a network diagram can help us figure that out. So next week we'll be getting into that. But until then, I hope that you all find this is helpful for what you all are wanting to do with your projects. Again, as always, with anything I share, I would just ask that you know, watch it thoroughly, read thoroughly, consider it, take what works for you, and then just leave what doesn't, because I'm just here to help. I'm not trying to sell you anything. But I hope that this had some value for you, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye.